we're back. So, I wanted to make a video on Dizzy, actually. I made an impression video about her before. You know, she's been out for a little over a month now, and I think now it's a little safe to kind of advance my opinions on the character. I'm sure if you've been like listening to any of like the other Strive players talk about Dizzy, it's been very negative. I'm sure that, you know, you've seen a lot of people on release were very negative about her, which I didn't find too fair. You know, you gotta kind of let the character sit for a sec. There's people that thought Happy Chaos was trash on release, right? So it's like, gotta be a little patient, see what happens, how the character develops, especially with, you know, such unique tools in our kit. Like one being Wings of Light, for example. But, you know, I wanted to kind of talk about her now that I've had time to sit on it. Like I said at the start, people were very doom on this character. It was basically she doesn't do what Soul Bad Guy does, she sucks, right? But like I said, we've had time. The character is definitely not great. I know there's some people saying out there that she's like bottom like 5 or bottom 3. I don't know if I'd go that far. She's probably in the bottom 10, but I don't know where I don't know. She could potentially be at bottom 5. Let me give my reasons and we'll go from there. You guys are free to have your own opinion, whether this video helps or whether you already have an opinion on the character. I'm curious to what you guys think now, whether it's playing her or fighting her, just anything, like any kind of thoughts about her. Let's talk about her normals. Let's talk about her P normals in specific. So her P normals are actually pretty bad. I will not lie, I actually thought the normals would be better. They're pretty whatever. And on top of being pretty whatever, the reward on hit is she can't combo anything on hit. So off the bat, 2 6Ps don't lead into the 6P of spaced 2P. That's not point blank range, doesn't go into 6P. This doesn't go into spike. This doesn't go into sword, right? That doesn't combo. This for sure obviously does not combo. Right, so you can't really do anything, unfortunately. You can do this, that doesn't work. So you have to be point blank and do this. Right, and then you can do that. So it's just, yeah, it's not great. Terrible defense. The normals, again, on top of being like this, they're not like Zato range or anything. Like, they're not Oscar range. They're... You would think this would actually go farther. It's really weird. I mean, I believe Dizzy had some pretty big P normals in the older game, so it's funny to see these. On top of it being like this, terrible anti-air 5P. It's not good. She is terrible at getting out of pressure. She's terrible at hitting people out of the air, because the 6P is like one of the worst in the game, both horizontally and vertically. For example, Sins is horrible at dealing with opponents directly above him, right? And you could put the hitbox on the screen, but it's very good for hitting people in neutral, like a good neutral 6P. But again, if you're right above him, Sin struggles pretty hard, right? The hitbox is pretty deceiving from how it actually looks like it should be. But when you look at Dizzy's, I mean, you just look at it and you can just tell where the problems are, right? You just look and you can tell why she's bad at dealing with opponents in the air. To add on to her P normals being trash, the reward from the P normals being trash, the 6P being trash, we can just talk about her multiplier. So one of the things on top of having these flaws with her P normals, she has a 1.09 multiplier. So she has 5 guts, which is obviously the only other character with 5 guts in this game is Anji. So extremely high when she hits 30% or lower. She's very hard to kill. Again, 30% or lower, very hard to kill. But a 1.09 multiplier, I believe that's like the second lowest in the game in terms of just, you know, multipliers, which is horrible. It's a horrible multiplier. I could be wrong. I do believe it's a 1.09. It's a horrible, yeah, no, not good at all. For reference, Zato, who has terrible HP, has a 1.03. So it's not, and the higher is the worst for those who do not know. Sin is like a 0.95 or 0.93. So Sin's really high, Zato's low. Dizzy, I believe, overall does have more HP than Zato, but that's just because of the guts. But just chipping away at Dizzy's health it's actually crazy. The multiplier is absurdly bad. But I also don't think she should be a tank, so I guess it's fine, but it's just, in this game, with the way the damage works, it's not good. The multiplier is pretty trash, especially with how bad she is at getting out of situations when put on the back end. I guess next we can talk about her offense. So one of the things she's actually known for is her offense. And I know people have seen like the memes with the fireball being like an infinite. It is a knowledge check like this, you know, stuff like this, right? You know, you can like mash the gap. It's a 5 or 6 frame gap or 7 frame gap, something like that, right? You can 6p like, you know, resets like this and whatnot. So it's not like actually real things that are actually seen with Dizzy when running offense, whether you're playing her or you're blocking her. You obviously do like this, you get a knockdown, and then you set up the you set up the fish, right? And you go into like stuff like this, right? Whether you want to do like strike throw with the fish, so like, oh, right, stuff like this, or you know, stuff like this. Okay, so there's two things that are bad with this. One, it's actually really hard to get her cross-up mix-ups like working. Dude, cross-up protection destroys this character. It is so bad. Oh my gosh. So yeah, dealing with cross-up protection with our mix-ups is very bad. And if you try to get around the cross-up protection, you end up actually making your mix-ups look like too obvious. So there's no like ambiguous mix-ups to it. Even then, it's not the end of the world, because the second thing that's wrong with it is the reward on her mix-ups is very low. Right? She has some overhead things, right? That she can do off this, and it's just not that good. Yeah, overall the reward is just really low, and it's not enough to actually add scare factors in characters, especially like, for example, when you have characters that can just do a simple overhead and then, you know, do stuff like this. I don't know why I dropped that. But yeah, do stuff like that. It's just not threatening. There's not a real scare factor in there. The only scare factor she has is like when she can get Wings of Light up and going. But even then, like through fighting Dizzy and playing her a bit, it's pretty hard to actually be like realistic and get that perfect situation with Wings of Light. Very unique move, very cool move, but I don't want to use the word gimmick, but it's definitely not as strong as the move itself is broken. Like, technically, the move, like, on paper, theoretically, is broken. But it's not that great in terms of this game. Yeah. Next thing, her block strings. So, her on-block pressure is very bad. It's not that great. So, she has the minus on-block close slash, as everyone knows. But that's not it. Just on top of that, right, you can't end your block strings in this, right? You kind of have to end your block string in this, which if they IB, which is a pretty easy IB timing for the most part, then it's, you know, it kind of cooks you a bit. So, like, for reference, I guess I could... This isn't a great way to even show it, to be honest, but... Right, situations like this... Right, it's not as realistic, but you know, you can only really go into this. You know, letting this happen is obviously, it's just not real for the most part. You can hit her out of this. Block strings are not great. You're not ever really setting like the fish either in block strings. So for example, you know, you're not doing stuff like, right, you're not doing that. You're not doing this in strings, right? It's never really gonna work. It's too slow, and even touching back with the fish, they're pretty bad neutral tools as is. This isn't great. It just kind of gets obliterated. Like if you have like a fireball or, you know, something like that, it's weird. It's not great for the fish is not great for mix-ups. It's not great for neutral. The only thing I can think of that is actually really nice with the fish is the P version's ability to hit things out of the air. This actually tracks, like, very well. So, for example, if I put... Oops, sorry. Right, like, it hits me all the way up there. It even will, like, turn around if I jump over it. So, for example... Yeah, there we go. That was also pretty bad, but... I would need Zato, because, like, he has flight, or, like, Milia or something like that. But point is, the air one is definitely harder to deal with than the on-the-ground version, because fireballs, right? Since it's a fizzle hit as well, that means you can do... you can special cancel off it, right? Kind of like Jacko Minions, right? Obviously, it's not as good as Jacko Minions. So yeah, her buttons, her bad defense, low reward on mix-ups, hard to actually get her mix-ups going. Bad reward in general, to be honest. Like, the hits that you're getting, like, okay. And I guess this also plays into her offense, right? Like, Zato, even Zato being, like, the worst character in the game, right? When he gets a 2D, he sets up, the reward is so good, right? Because you can do, like, meaty drills or something, right? Dizzy doesn't really have, like, she's not great at anything, and nor is the situation like this. Like, this isn't a oh no like situation for the opponent, right? Like it's just not great. Now let's talk about the obvious thing. So the ice spike. This is the main thing I wanted to talk about. So what I want to talk about with the ice spike is actually the ice floor and the anti-zoning tool of that aspect of the spike. The ice floor is actually really hard to use. It's hard. Okay, so I think it's okay when you get it like actually up and going, but to get it set up is actually pretty hard. So what I mean, even from full screen. So if I'm like around like the full screen point, right? So let's say I'm like right here. That punishes, right? So it's pretty hard to actually. You can't really just use the spike and then go into this. Even if you block it, like, it sets up my pressure for the most part, right? Dude, her HP, like, she has such low HP. Yeah, but anyways, yeah, it's hard to use the ice floor, or sorry, ice spike, and then get the floor set up. The floor is more of a Oki tool. So, what I mean by that is you actually want to use, like, the heavy version of Michael's sword. So what I mean by that is so for example, you want to get or land H Michael's sword, and so you want to land this, and then you can go into the spike, into the floor, right? Because obviously there's characters like Sin, characters like Johnny, characters that can do like a far-reaching thing, or button in a far-reaching thing, or far-reaching button into anything. It's always going to be a punish. And some characters, dude, get such good reward off the ice floor in general. So not even just hitting her, but what the ice floor does, it's basically whoever can knock down the other opponent first. So so for example, the floor break will cause a hard knockdown. Here. Right? So it always calls a hard knockdown. So there's some characters that actually can set up their win con off hitting Dizzy with the ice floor up. So Johnny, right? Because KMF will hard knockdown into, whatever you want to do. And there's obviously some other characters out there that, for example, like a non-counter hit 6P by Zato will cause a hard knockdown and let you go into drills, right? So it's funny that she's also at risk if she's wrong. Like, not even like extremely wrong, but just, something as little as that can just ruin the game for her. And it's something she set up, which is supposed to be a strong aspect of her kit. So, yeah, ice floor overall is good if you can. I guess it's alright if you can actually get it up and going, but to set it up while the opponent is not getting hit is almost impossible a lot of the times. And there's characters that also just, kind of zone her out better than, like, she actually can. So what I mean by that is she's like a zone. She's meant, like I said in the past, she's a zoner, but she's not actually a zoner. And this ice floor, the ice spike into, like, characters can just block the ice spike and then keep doing what they want to do. Happy Chaos is an example, but it's unfair to use Happy Chaos just because he's Happy Chaos and can pretty much do everything. The ice spike is like double-digit minus. It's not great on block. You have to be very careful with use it. This version almost feels like just combo filler. It doesn't actually feel like I guess it has its uses. It's just risky due to the frame data. Overall, not a horrible move. Just a lot of risk to it, especially with how her kit is set up. It just doesn't feel that great. But yeah, on top of that, I guess to add to her bad, something I forgot to mention. I mean, she has a reversal, so that doesn't. It's good reversals. There's never a downside of having a reversal. It's just a slow reversal, so I guess that's the issue with it. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I can think of. I think the character, there's maybe some ways to. She's easier than we all thought. I think the only thing that can be pushed is now like finding ways to use your like to play neutral in a way around getting the ice spike actually set up and being more confident when it's up. She's kind of weak up close, and she's actually not that. She's pretty weak far away as well. For the risk reward is just always feels like it's not in her favor a lot of the times in different situations in a match. So you kind of have to be a little careful playing her. Her numbers aren't the greatest, but I mean, off good hits, I guess she can do good damage, like counter hit Michael's sword but like getting this to counter hit isn't actually as easy as I thought. It's more easy versus like set play characters and whatnot, but in terms of versus like button to button neutral characters, you're really like never landing this counter hit. So yeah, but that's pretty much all about Dizzy. I'm curious to what other people think. Again, I think one of the things that could get pushed further with the character, like I said, is maybe optimizing getting into the ice floor situations better and taking advantage of that. Maybe another thing is getting more practical with Wings of Light. It's just hard and it's expensive and there's so much that goes into it. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But I'm curious to hear everyone else's thoughts. So that will be it for me. Thank you everyone for watching, and until next time.